We welcome you to the school board meeting of March 2nd at 2:45. I will do the electronic meeting notice. This meeting is being held as an electronic meeting pursuant to and in compliance with Richmond City Council's Ordinance 2020-93, adopted April 9, 2020, and extended by Ordinance number 2020-183, adopted August 20th, 2020. And by ordinance number 2020-232, adopted December 14th, 2020, and the school board's resolution approved on April 20th, 2020. The meeting notice also stated that the meeting would be a virtual meeting and would be live streamed for the public on the school division's Facebook page, and the link was provided. The agenda for the meeting was also posted to board docs. After roll call, we will state how many board members are participating at the time of this call. Ms. Dorr, Ms. White,
Present.
Ms. Gibson, Mr. Young, Ms. Rizzi, Dr. Harris Muhammad,
Present.
Ms. Burke,
Here.
Ms. Page. I see her on the screen. Ms. Page, Ms. Jones.
Yeah,
I thought I saw you. What?
my mute is acting
3,
crazy.
4, 5. And with Ms. Page appearing on the screen, you have a quorum, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Lilly. All right, we'll now move forward with the VDOE.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So good afternoon and welcome President Gecker, Dr. Lane, Superintendent Cameras, and everyone joined virtually this afternoon in support of Richmond City Public Schools. I'm Dr. Relly Ortiz, the Director of the Office of School Quality. I will serve as facilitator for our meeting today. The purpose of this meeting is to share progress updates as related to our memorandum of understanding between the boards. The MOU states this team will meet at least twice per year to facilitate communication and regular updates. I'd like to begin with 2 quick updates from our most recent corrective action plan meeting, which was held last week. Team RPS has demonstrated solid growth in systems and evidence related to the Title III and results-driven accountability corrective action plans. Kudos to Team RPS. Those are huge wins for our English language learners and students who receive exceptional education services. Our agenda today will include overall division highlights and data that aligns with the division's essential actions related to graduation. If time allows, we'll provide additional information regarding support provided from the agency and obviously allow for questions. At this time, unless President Gecker or Dr. Lane has anything to add, I'd like to pass it over to Mr. Cameras and Team RPS. Okay, seeing none.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ortiz. I'd love to just begin by doing some quick introductions of the RPS team. So let's start with Dr. Epp.
Good afternoon. I am Tracy Epp, our Chief Academic Officer.
And I see Mr. Hughes.
Hello, everyone. I'm Harry Hughes. I'm the Chief Schools Officer for RPS.
And Miss Lee.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sandra Lee. I'm the Chief Talent Officer for RPS.
Miss Hudasco.
Good afternoon, Michelle Hudasco, Chief of Staff.
And our newest member of the team, Miss Gonzalez.
Good afternoon, I'm Alana Gonzalez, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for RPS.
Fantastic. And Dr. Harris is not able to join us today, but she is our Chief Engagement Officer, and she is just returning from maternity leave. So we are thrilled to have her back in action as well. We wanted to just spend a few minutes giving just a brief update on where we are this year and as we're thinking about next year. And then also sharing some very exciting data about our graduation progress. So first, just an update on where we are this year. As I think folks know, last night the school board voted to approve a limited reopening plan for this spring, in essence, providing in-person instruction for about 800 students, focused primarily on our elementary English learners and special education students, but also making available in-person instruction for general education students as well in our facilitated learning centers. So we are very excited to have formally taken that action, and we will have that up and running right after spring break for the remainder of this year.
And work with them, that's a blessing. And one piece, I know social studies and science.
I think somebody.
I have it.
Okay.
I have it.
No
Thank you.
problem. So that is the plan for this year. And then we have been discussing potentially an extended year or year-round or blended calendar for next year that would, in essence, provide an optional 7 additional weeks of instruction spread out over the course of the year for 5,000 of our highest need students, which we would identify through PALS, MAP, and high school grades as we get into the summer and into next year. So the board is still discussing that and taking feedback on that. The goal would be for us to make a decision and vote at our next school board meeting on March 15th. Let me just pause there. Any questions on the plan for the spring or next year? And then I'll dive into the graduation data.
No questions, Mr. Cameras, but I just wanted to say congratulations to the board on your vote last night to begin bringing some students back in person. We were very excited to see that, and I thank y'all for taking that action.
Thank you, Dr. Lane. All right, with that, I'm going to share my screen. Let's see if I can get this to work for the graduation data. So hang with me 1 second. All right, can someone give me a thumbs up or a yes if you can see it? All right, fantastic. So I'm not going to go through everything here. It's important to note graduation is one of our 10 key goals in our strategic plan. Obviously, this is a metric which is extremely important for our young people. It is also a metric that we have struggled with mightily over the last several years, and it's why it's number 2 on the list right after accreditation. We have really worked hard to try to tackle this from a number of different vantage points, certainly focusing on our seniors, but also working quite a bit on dropout recovery and dropout prevention. And I'll say a little bit about each of those. Also tracking priority students that we know typically have had challenges getting across the finish line. Down to the individual student level. So we are now tracking every last student with individualized graduation plans, along with individualized support plans. You can see on the right here a whole set of interventions, program supports that we can apply on a student by student basis to make sure we are getting as many as we possibly can across the graduation stage. We've really been looking at our alternative programs quite a bit. We have a number that currently exist, and we've been assessing those that are working well, those that may be redundant, and those that are needed in the future. I do want to note a few that are new. Our Secondary Success Center, Bilingual Newcomers Academy, and our Kunganas program, which you can see now have almost 300 students enrolled in them. These are our dropout recovery and dropout prevention programs. Bilingual Newcomer Academy and Kunganas focused on our English learner population. The Secondary Success Center is focused on students 17 to 21 who have dropped out. We have 73 students in the center right now. I mentioned the Kunganas program, which has 81 students currently enrolled. And the new Newcomer Academy, which has 139th and 10th graders. Very excited about this because these young people will be on track much earlier in their educational career in high school. So let's go to the data, the most important part. First, looking at dropout rates. These are projections based on data really as of this week. We do feel confident in these projections, as our projections from last year were within about a percentage point or two. Plus, now that we are in March, it is not likely that these would shift dramatically. As you can see, across all of our high schools, either staying where they were, which was great, with a 0% dropout rate, or significant reductions. Armstrong down almost 8 points. George Wythe and Huguenot, which are our two high schools that primarily serve where our English learners attend, down 25 points and 18 points. John Marshall down almost 5. Even TJ down about a point. And as you can see, as a division, we're projecting a reduction in our dropout rate from 23.2% down to 10%, a massive reduction of 13 percentage points. And by subgroup, you can see again across every single subgroup, again, showing reductions, most notably for our Hispanic, Latino students and our English learners, but also all of these Black and African-American students, white, economically disadvantaged, and also I think really exciting, students with disabilities, projecting a 13% decline in dropout rate for that group as well. And then again, this is just showing the Hispanic Latino rate at George Wythe and Huguenot specifically. You see those huge declines. We've recovered 71 seniors this year amidst the pandemic. So this is actually one of the things I'm most proud of the team for accomplishing. These are young people who had dropped out, and through the work of our academic team and our engagement team and our schools team, found the young people and then re-engaged them to get them back on track for graduation. I'm going to skip over spring courses. I'm going to skip over grad requirements since everybody on the call knows those. This is the percentage now of our current seniors, our 21 cohort, who've already met their verified credit requirements. And you can see we're in the 70s in 3 and 80s in the 4th. And then when you add in those who are eligible, sort of the LAVCs or SOLs, we're in the 80s. Certainly this has been helped by some of the waivers that the state put in place due to COVID. So that is certainly appreciated. And well, if we kind of sum it all up and look at our projections overall, I'm thrilled to report that we are projecting an increase of over 13 percentage points for our graduation rate. And I have to tell you, if I didn't meet with our principals and our chief academic officer and our chief schools officer and inspect the data every single week, I wouldn't believe it, because it is that good. But I have seen the incredible work that they have done. And I am thrilled, even if we come in a little bit short of our projection, even a 10% increase would be absolutely incredible. I'm fairly confident that that should take us out of the distinction of being the lowest in the state and on the way, hopefully, to being the highest in the state. Obviously, still a ton more work to do. Even with these increases, we still have very, very low rates at some of our schools, most notably George Wythe still requires a great deal of attention, as does Huguenot, Armstrong, but significant advances that I think we can all be proud of. The city, the VDOE, everybody who has contributed. And then here it is by subgroup. Again, you can see the rather dramatic increases projected in terms of graduation for our Hispanic students and our English learners. This group comprises about 20% almost of our students now. So a significant and growing segment of our population in Richmond. And again, I think this has a lot to do with the investments that have been made with state dollars and local dollars for more ESL teachers, bilingual teachers, programs like Honganas and the Newcomer Academy. All of that is beginning to pay off. And then very last, just wanted to note on Friday, we had a mid-year graduation, first time ever. These are for students who were recovered from previous cohorts, 2018, 19, and 20. So it doesn't count for our rate, but it's the right thing to do. And we're thrilled to be able to have those 25 young people came back from those previous classes, walked across the stage at Huguenot on Friday. I got an email from a teacher at Huguenot who has worked with one of the students. And I just want to share briefly what he shared with me. And that is that one of the students, his mother was watching the graduation ceremony at Huguenot, literally from the coffee bean field in Guatemala, where she works, via video over her phone. And she has sacrificed everything to make sure that he gets a better chance in life, and got to watch him graduate at Huguenot. So just to put a bit of the human element to these numbers, that's what this is all about. So still lots more to do, but very, very proud of our high school principals, counselors, the team, and the joint effort with the VDOE to begin to show some real progress on the metrics that matter the most.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cameras.
I was just going to say congratulations. Obviously we're all optimistic to see if those rates hold, but those are numbers like we've not seen in Richmond in a long time, so it's impressive.
Thank you, Dr. Lane.
So we'd like to open it up for any questions at this time from the board, or President Gecker, if you had any questions, anything you wanted to add.
Well, first, of course, Jason, congratulations. You guys are doing good things. I am curious, one of the focuses of our board is to increase the level of experience of teachers in, Title I or lower socioeconomic schools. And I mean, just looking at your data, you have what, 2.5 times the state average of inexperienced teachers. You've got still a mismatch between your Title I and non-Title I schools in terms of how you allocate those teachers. As we come into the next school year, how are you focusing? And I'm sure you are focusing on, hiring more experienced teachers to help in some of the schools that need it most. And when I say experience here, it's also the out-of-field teachers, as you know, but it's a significant focus of our board right now.
Yes, look, I have said I would like us to get to a place ultimately where you would not have the privilege of teaching in RPS unless you had at least 2 years of experience, and that you just don't get to do your tryout years here in Richmond. And so that is where I'd like us to ultimately be. I think our first couple of years were really focused on just making sure we don't open up with vacancies. And, we went from a place in 2018 where we were opening up with, several dozen, over 60, I believe it was, vacancies, to last year where I believe it was about 10 or fewer. And so now we are really shifting our focus towards those experienced folks, as you noted. I certainly think the pay increases that we've been able to put in place over the last several years have made Richmond a more attractive and competitive place to recruit those individuals towards. But that is an area that we need to do more to explicitly recruit and market towards those who have experience for those schools that need it the most. It is not as difficult to get an experienced teacher for some schools as opposed to other schools, and we really want to make sure that we're driving them to the schools that need it the most. And so I think ultimately, I would be open to looking at even pay differentials for teachers who go to the schools that need experienced folks the most, and other incentives. But also, I think additional support. I think what I have often found is what drives teachers the most is a strong relationship with a good leader and the right supports to be successful. And the money is always helpful, but those prerequisites have to be in place. So I think emphasizing that and focusing on our leader development so that our principals are attracting and developing and retaining those kinds of educators as well is going to have to be a big focus for us, not just going into next year, but for the next several years.
Well, thank you for that. Just one quick follow-up, and you may not have an answer for this yet. Do you have any feel for what turnover rate's going to be this year coming out of a virtual year teaching? Are we going to lose more younger people? Are more experienced teachers more or less likely to drop out of the workforce? Are you seeing anything yet, or is it just too early in your year?
I think it's still too early. We have not seen any spike in resignations or anything of that nature. I think folks, obviously, being employed right now in the middle of a pandemic is a blessing. And so I think folks are being very judicious about whether to move on or not. I'm hopeful that our retention continues to increase. In fact, not even a decrease, but still too early to tell. It's one of our key goals that we track, and we'll be reporting on to the board as soon as we have more information on it.
And I guess one last unrelated to the teaching force is the buildings. I think I've seen publicly made comments that the HVAC systems in the buildings may not be sufficient, given the pandemic to house kids. How focused are you and the board on making the improvements needed to safely bring people back?
Very focused. The board, I'm very grateful to, just passed our spend plan for the latest round of federal stimulus. A very significant portion of that will go towards HVAC and other air quality upgrades. So, I would say air quality and bathroom enhancements are really kind of 1 and 2 in terms of our physical reopening priorities. And so we are excited to get those funds and get to work. We have been working on our bathrooms for quite some time. The HVAC is a little bit more expensive, so we've needed those federal funds. We're grateful that we'll be getting them very soon and be putting them to use in time for next year.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Cameras, would you mind taking a moment maybe to share out some additional information regarding the year-round or the extended year proposal?
Absolutely. So 1 second. Do my screen sharing again. All right. So full disclosure, this is a controversial topic, but one that I have been transparent about my support for in terms of providing additional instructional time for our students. I think one way or the other, we have an obligation to do so going into next year. This is one way to do that. It is also an approach that the school board charged the administration with developing last year. In fact, coming up with a year-round calendar for a variety of reasons. So what we have put together is a calendar that provides 7 extra weeks of instruction to our 5,000 highest need students. There would be a 3-week session right before school starts that we are calling Jumpstart. Then 2 weeks in November for a fall boost, and then 2 weeks in spring, for 2 weeks in March for a spring boost. These would be 100% optional, though of course strongly encouraged and incentivized for our highest needs students. It would be optional for teachers as well, but they would of course be paid if they did choose to work the additional weeks. And what's exciting is a teacher who would sign on for all 7 weeks could make about $10,000 extra over the course of the year, which is a really wonderful part of this proposal. It still maintains a summer despite the term year round. So even students participating in the extra weeks of instruction would have a 5-week summer, and those that didn't would have an 8-week summer. And then we've added in more teacher work days and several religious holidays to reflect the growing diversity of our students and staff. Just to look at it very briefly, June 18th is the last day of school for us for this year. The blue days you'll see here, the 3 weeks in July and August, that's the jump start right before school starts. The yellow days are the regular school days. We would officially start for all students on August 17th. And then you'll see in November, we have that fall boost, again, the blue days. And then in March, again, 2 weeks, these blue days for the spring boost. And then we would conclude on June 24th. And then assuming if this were to pass and we continued on this path, we would in essence repeat that cycle the next summer with the jump start and the fall boost and the spring boost. Again, this would add 7 weeks of instruction for our highest needs students. We have some initial survey data. I do want to note that this is not a scientific survey. It's intentionally anonymous, so anyone can respond, but obviously it's targeted towards our families and our staff. We've had over 2,000 respondents on the parent side. In terms of comfort level, you see here about 43% said that they would be comfortable or very comfortable with this, compared to about 36%. This is Jason speaking personally. I was pleased to see a plurality on the comfort end, knowing how big of a change this would be. And then when we asked parents and caregivers, would you send your children to the extra days if they were identified as needing additional support, nearly 50% said yes, they would. And we're really only targeting 5,000 students, which is about 20% of our families. So it does seem to be that, at least from the respondents in this survey, that there would be a desire to send their students. On the teacher side, we've had about 50% of our teachers weigh in, and even with our teachers, there is a plurality, not a majority, but a plurality of teachers saying that they are comfortable or very comfortable with this shift, closing in at 40% compared to about 33% on the other end. And then when we ask teachers, how likely would you be to work the extra weeks, you see we have about 35% saying likely or very likely, 40% on the other end. This is okay though, this is still workable because we really only would need about 25% of our teachers to sign up to do this to make it work. So understandable that a lot of folks wouldn't want to work it, but there are, it appears anyway, a sufficient number who would want to work it, would want to make those extra dollars, and thus it would be workable under its current construction. We're going to continue to gather feedback. We're going to do several town halls over the next 2 weeks across the city, and hopefully make a decision come March 15th, which is our next school board meeting.
Yep. Thanks, Mr. Cameras. Just a few thoughts there, and I'll share some background perspective. I started my career teaching in a year-round school with a very similar calendar that essentially had voluntary intercessions, voluntary both for the students and the teachers. And I had the experience as a superintendent of opening a year-round program in Chesterfield, and they've expanded that to additional schools. And I've worked really closely with Hopewell on their design, which hopefully once we get past the pandemic, they will be potentially, along with RPS, our first fully year-round school division. And I just wanted you to know, we think that this is a great strategy for addressing learning loss, and frankly, a great strategy in supporting school districts that need additional instruction to get students over the line. I heard this phrase once and I use it all the time, but if time is the constant, then learning is the variable, right? But if time can be the variable for our students, and we can give students that need more time, then learning can be the constant. And I think that's what this model provides. I will tell you from my own teaching experience, it was a huge recruitment and retention incentive for teachers in the school division. I was in Durham, North Carolina, which was a very similar school division to Richmond Public Schools. And we were the only year-round middle school. And that school is now the top school in Durham at the middle school level. Additionally, I can tell you by establishing those in other school divisions, that it is also a huge teacher recruitment incentive, and the additional pay that you can earn was huge for a lot of families. But on the instructional side, I can tell you we saw significant gains in student performance when we implemented these models. If you have the intercession, year-round without the intercession is no more effective than 180 days. It's just organized differently. And so the work that you're doing to build those boosters, and you call it different things than intercessions, I recognize are essential. And so I think the way that you're designing this is really well done and really in alignment with the research and even my own experience on what will be successful. And I think it will be great for Richmond, not only in the short term to address learning loss, but I hope that you look at it potentially longer term if it has the benefits that you hope that it has.
Thank you, Dr. Lane.
Thank you, Dr. Lane. Thank you, Mr. Cameras. And you know our office will be here to walk side by side with you with resources and processes. But we want to open it up for the board if you have any questions.
Well, I'll let you.
About 5 minutes.
Dr. Ortiz, you mentioned resources, so I'll just mention one thing. It's important to note that we do provide significantly large year-round school grants that you'll be able to qualify for. Typically, we give a grant for a planning year, but I think we can forgo that in the midst of the pandemic, and you probably will be able to qualify for some of our grants for year-round schools. Right now, we have $7 million, but there's great discussion around using some of the state set-aside money for this purpose. And so as more information develops there, we'll certainly share it with you. But I think that in addition to the significant investment that you've gotten from the federal government, hopefully to launch some of these initiatives, know that there may be opportunities for grants from the state as well to support this work.
Absolutely. All right. And so with our remaining 4 minutes, you know, money always sounds great, right? But financial support, I should say. Board members, did you all have any questions, comments? Take a moment to celebrate some of this work that's happening right there in your community.
Hi. Nesby?
Yes, ma'am.
Hello? You froze.
We can hear you, Ms. Burke.
Oh, okay. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you so very much. I am excited. And last night, our board members, I'm glad those are here with us this afternoon that could make it. Dr. Lane, we heard you the last time we met. You said, where are the board members? So those that could make it today are here because we are in support of our children, as you well know. I am so elated with this news regarding our graduation rates. Also elated regarding our attendance is getting better as well. So knowing where we were in 2017, 2018, and where we are now, we have no other place to go but up. So thank you, your department, for your support, and also across the board in terms of we're finally getting some funding. So we are very appreciative of that, and we know what to do with the funding because it's hard to make a difference per se when you don't have the resources. So we're excited, and I must say our team has worked so hard. A couple of years ago, when all of our counselors had to stop what they were doing and take child by child by child by child, student by student, high school level, we thought it would never end, but look where we are now. So thank you for your support and guidance, and thank you for telling us about those grants. I look forward to continued success. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Burke. As there are no other questions, we will prepare to wrap up and adjourn.
May I say one word, Dr. Ortiz?
Yes, and I think Ms. Mariah White had.
Oh, Go ahead, Ms. White.
Dr. Lane, I had a question for you. Since I know you were in Chesterfield and you were the superintendent down there, and one of the schools that I work right next door to, which is Bellwood, which is one of the year-round schools, and I know also Fording Creek. And since we're talking about year-round schools, how do you think the outcome, because they still do have year-round school, how do you think the outcome was with the pilot program? Because it never did advance through all the rest of the schools in Chesterfield.
Yeah, it was never, I think, and I can't speak for the current board, right? So they may be thinking something different, but when we initially launched that program, it was never intended in Chesterfield for every school to go year round. What we ultimately wanted to do was offer options for families that were interested in a year-round calendar, but we started that just with the Bellwood community. And that movement in Chesterfield, certainly I encourage principals to consider that, but it really was born of the Bellwood community. The principal really wanted to see it go year round. She got the teachers on board, and then they worked over time to get parents on board. And so our hope was to build some capacity in those schools. In Chesterfield, those are schools with students, frankly, that have a higher percentage of poverty. And so we wanted to see how the additional time in the calendar that they built with intersessions would make a difference. We've really been in a situation where we haven't had great SOL scores because of COVID and everything to really give you a longitudinal answer on how that will look. But I can tell you in my discussions with principal and central leadership there since I left is that there continues to be great support for that, and they're seeing great benefits from it. And so I would not read into the fact that they haven't added more year-round schools to mean that they don't support it. It really was intended to be in that feeder pattern, right? And in Chesterfield, with multiple high schools, they build out feeder patterns. And so they wanted to see the two Falling Creeks rolling into Falling Creek Middle over time. And, I think that the pandemic probably slowed some of the progress. But again, I think in terms of how it's going now, I'd have to defer to the leadership there because frankly, with everything going on in the state and COVID, I haven't kept up as much. But I know that at the onset, there was a lot of excitement about that and that they felt like they were making a difference with students in those intersessions.
Thank you.
Thank you for that question. Thank you, Dr. Lane. And Mr. Cameron, we'll go ahead and let you close out.
I just want to say thank you to the state, Dr. Lane, President Gecker for your support and leadership. And a special shout out to Dr. Ortiz. I do feel like we have achieved sort of a new level of collaboration and sort of honest engagement since Dr. Ortiz's arrival. And I have great optimism about our collaboration going forward. And I want to just give Jonathan Lewis a shout out for his counsel and support as well. I know he's silently watching there, but I just wanted to recognize him. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. One team, one dream. All right. Well, thank you all. We appreciate you. We'll allow folks to sign out. Dr. Lane, President Gecker, I will see you on the other side in another meeting. All right, y'all. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
All right. Team RPS.